Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go over how to do absolute value graphs. And so this packet's really similar to the graphing quadratics one. It has you experiment a little bit to see what things do. And then at the end it has you practice graphing your own absolute value graphs there. It's a little bit shorter. It's missing one of the pages. But before we dive in, you have to remember what absolute value means, which is distance from zero. Which is kind of a weird definition, but what it ends up doing is it makes things positive. So if you have something like the absolute value of -2, it turns it positive, makes it 2, because -2 is 2 away from 0. Or if you have the absolute value of 9, that's actually going to make it just 9, because 9 is 9 away from 0. You can have -1100, and the absolute value of that's going to be positive 1100, because it's 1100 away from 0. So, now to remember what absolute value does, it just makes things positive, and if it's already positive, it stays positive. We're going to graph the function where f of x equals the absolute value of x. So I'm going to take these x's and absolute value them. The absolute value of -2 is 2. The absolute value of -1 is 1. The absolute value of 0 is 0. The absolute value of 1 is 1. And the absolute value of 2 is 2. So I got my points here. Remember, each row makes a point. So we got -2, 2. -1, 1. 0, 0, 1, 1, and 2, 2. And chances are you can see what's happening here. The absolute value of 3 is 3. The absolute value of 4 is 4. The absolute value of 5 is 5. And so on. It just keeps going on this nice straight line. And in the other direction, the absolute value of -3 is positive 3. The absolute value of -4 is positive 4. This is just going to keep going along here. And this is an absolute value graph. It's actually a little bit easier than the quadratics one. But we were just doing quadratic stuff, and so I wanted to show that one first. But this is the basic graph. I want to point out a few things. It does have a vertex here, which happens to be at 0, 0, just like a basic quadratic one. But this one, it has a constant slope. All of these have the same gap between the same slope, and it's all just 1. And so we're looking at a slope of 1 on this side, and the slope on the other side is just -1. And if you know those things, you can graph your absolute value. What's going on these other parts here, you're supposed to graph different absolute values, functions, and see what they do to the graph. So let's do one here. Let's make it pink. This one here, you're supposed to do x minus 3 and then take the absolute value. So we're supposed to do absolute value of 1 minus 3, absolute value of 2 minus 3, absolute value of 3 minus 3, absolute value of 4 minus 3, absolute value of 5 minus 3. Which is going to give you absolute value of -2 is 2, 1, 0, 1, and 2 again. But we're at different points. This is the point 1, 2, 2, 1, 3, 0, etc. And so I got 1, 2, 2, 1, 3, 0, 4, 1, 5, 2. So I have this absolute value graph. Like that. Oh, that's strange. It just looks like it moved it to the right 3. Oh man, it's almost like vertex form, where the inside part moves it horizontally. And man, I wonder if the outside part's going to move it vertically. There's a really good chance that's going to happen. And so you're going to go through and fill in the tables and graph them and see what the effect of changing a number inside is going to do. And on the next one, you're going to see what changing a number on the outside does. And then you're going to see what changing the number in front of the absolute value. So if you times your absolute value by something, what does that do to your graph? And you're going to write down what that does. And then, oh, what happens if you put a negative in front? What does that do to your graph? It's probably going to be really similar to the quadratic one, but I want you to figure that out. All right, so you're going to go through and do that. And actually, just kind of pause the video and do that. I'm going to wait a second. And let's talk about the graphing part at the end here. So, At the end here, it gives you some functions you're supposed to graph, things like this. And you need to do the graphing. Well, we can use the transformations we've been looking at to help you know how to graph this. Well, there's no change in the absolute value, so it's not going to go right or left at all, but there is this change outside, and that's going to move my vertex up 4. So my vertex is going to be at 0, 4, so I'm going to put a dot there. And then my a value here is -2. The negative makes it go upside down, and then the 2 makes it twice as steep as it used to be. So on the basic absolute value graph, the slope was 1. So it went up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1. But now my slope is going to be -2. So I'm going to come here to my vertex, and I'm going to go down to right 1, down to right 1 to get some points. And I can go down to left 1 to get the other points. And this is symmetrical, just like on the quadratic ones. And it makes this V shape. And voila, we have graphed this absolute value here. And that's what's going on in your assignment. So, good luck.